But as he left, he discreetly slipped an envelope under his plate. Lily didn't notice it right away. Not until she reached for the check, and her breath caught in her throat. As Lily went to clear the table, she noticed something unusual, a folded envelope tucked beneath the plate. Curious, she picked it up and peeked inside. Her breath hitched. Crisp bills. Stacks of them! Far more than any normal tip. Her hands trembled as she counted the money, her mind racing with questions. Who was he? And why would he leave this? Heart pounding, she ran outside, searching for the mysterious man. But he was already gone. The sleek black car she had noticed earlier had vanished into the night. For the rest of her shift, Lily couldn't stop thinking about him. The next morning, Rosie's diner buzzed with its usual breakfast rush. The scent of fresh coffee and sizzling bacon filled the air as Lily tied on her apron, pushing thoughts of last night aside. But no matter how hard she tried to focus, her mind kept drifting to the homeless boy she had helped days ago. Had he found a safe place? Had he eaten since then? She hoped so. Her thoughts were cut short by the sound of the front door swinging open. A tall man stepped inside. Sharp suit, polished shoes. He stood out among the casual crowd, exuding quiet confidence. At first, Lily barely noticed him, too busy, taking an elderly couple's order. But then the hostess approached her, whispering, "That gentleman over there asked for you to be his server." Lily glanced over, confused. When their eyes met, something flickered in her memory. Familiarity. She couldn't place it, but it was there. The man smiled warmly, as if he had been waiting for this moment. Shrugging off the odd feeling, Lily approached. His table, notepad in hand. "Good afternoon. What can I get you today?" The man hesitated, then said, "I'll take the special of the day, but only if you promise to take a break and have coffee with me later." Lily blinked, caught off guard. I don't usually take breaks during my shift," she replied, shaking her head politely. "Is there anything else you'd like with your order?" The man chuckled. "Just the special for now," he said, handing back the menu. As Lily walked away, she couldn't shake the feeling that there was something different about him. Like he knew her, but wasn't saying how. Throughout his meal, James Dalton watched Lily closely, not in a way that made her uncomfortable, but in quiet admiration. He saw how she treated every customer with patience and kindness, no matter how busy she was. She carried trays with effortless grace, smiled even at the grumpiest diners, and checked on every table to make sure her customers were satisfied. It was clear Lily wasn't just hardworking, she was extraordinary. When she finally brought him the bill, James reached into his wallet for his credit card. But just as she turned to leave, his voice stopped her. "Wait," Lily paused, tilting her head. "Yes?" James leaned forward slightly. "Do you remember helping a homeless boy on the street last week?" Her eyes widened. "Yes, I do." But she hesitated. "How do you know about that?" James smiled knowingly. "Let's just say I saw something that night. A young woman who went out of her way to help someone in need." He paused, studying her reaction. "I was impressed by your kindness." Lily's cheeks flushed. She looked down, feeling embarrassed. "It was nothing, really. He needed help, and I just did what anyone should do." James shook his head. "Not everyone would have done what you did." He reached into his pocket and handed her a small folded piece of paper along with the bill. "This is for you," he said. "Open it after I leave." Lily took it hesitantly, confused but too polite to refuse. She watched as the man stood, gave her one last lingering smile, and walked out of the diner. Her fingers trembled as she unfolded the note. Inside was a check for $50,000. Her breath caught in her throat. Beneath the staggering amount was a handwritten message. "Your kindness has inspired me. Use this to create the future you deserve. A grateful stranger." Lily clutched the check, her heart racing. For the first time in a long time, she allowed herself to dream. Lily ran outside, scanning the street for any sign of the man, but he was gone. Her mind swirled with questions. Who was he? Why would he give her such an unbelievable gift? And why did he seem so familiar? That night, as she sat in her tiny apartment, the check lay untouched on her kitchen table. $50,000, more money than she had ever seen in her life. She wanted to return it. It was too much, far too much for her to accept. But there was no contact information, no way to find him. So for the first time in years, she allowed herself to dream. Days turned into weeks. Lily's life began to change. With the money, she paid off her debts. She finally fixed the leaky faucet in her apartment And most importantly, she started saving for a dream, a small cafe. Not just any cafe, but one where everyone, including the homeless, could find a warm meal and a welcoming smile. Yet, no matter how much her circumstances improved, she never stopped wondering about him, the man who had changed her life. Then, one evening, as she walked home from Rosie's, a sleek black car pulled up beside her. The window rolled down, and there he was, the generous stranger from the restaurant. "I hoped I'd find you," he said with a grin. Lily froze, her heart pounding. "You again?" Her voice was a mix of shock and disbelief. "Why did you give me that money? Who are you?" The man stepped out of the car, his expression serious, but kind. "I owe you an explanation," he said. "My name is Andrew Hale. I'm the CEO of Hale Enterprises." Lily's breath caught. Hale Enterprises, one of the biggest companies in the country. And Andrew Hale, a billionaire whose name was in every business magazine. Her mind reeled. "I didn't tell you who I was before," Andrew continued, "because I wanted to see how you'd react. I've spent years building wealth, but I've never seen anyone as selfless as you, helping that homeless boy. It wasn't just an act of kindness, it showed who you truly are." Lily opened her mouth, but no words came. This had to be a dream. "But why would someone like you care about me?" she finally asked, shaking her head. "I'm just a waitress." Andrew smiled. "You're far more than that." His voice was soft yet unwavering. "You have a heart that money can't buy. And I believe the world needs more people like you." He reached into his jacket and handed her an envelope. Lily hesitated before taking it, her fingers trembling. "This," he said, "is a deed to a small cafe downtown. It's yours now." Lily's eyes widened. "What?" she whispered. I can't accept this." Andrew held up a hand. "Consider it an investment," he said gently. "An investment in someone who deserves it." Tears welled up in Lily's eyes. She wanted to refuse. It was too much. Again. But deep down she knew this was her chance. Andrew smiled, sensing her hesitation. "Just promise me one thing," he said. Lily swallowed hard. "What?" Keep being the person who inspired me." His gaze softened. "Keep helping others." A single tear slipped down Lily's cheek. She clutched the envelope to her chest and nodded. "I will," she whispered. From that day forward, Lily's life transformed. Her cafe became a haven, a place where everyone was welcome, just as she had always dreamed. And though she never fully understood why fate had brought Andrew Hale into her life, she knew one thing for certain: kindness, no matter how small, could change the world. Lily Harper had dreams far bigger than her modest life allowed. At just 23 years old, she worked tirelessly at Rosie's Diner, a small rundown restaurant in the heart of New York City. The chipped paint on the walls and the flickering neon open sign outside mirrored her struggles, yet she always managed to smile. Lily had a gift, not just for serving customers, but for making people feel seen and valued. Despite the long shifts and meager wages, she had a habit that set her apart. Every night after closing, she gathered leftover food from the diner and handed it out to the homeless on her walk home. To her, it was a small act of kindness. To those she helped, it meant the world. One particularly cold evening, rain poured, relentlessly, soaking the city streets. Lily pulled her worn jacket tighter around her as she hurried home. But then, she noticed a small figure curled up under a bus stop shelter. A boy no older than 8, shivering in the storm, his clothes soaked through. Her heart clenched. Kneeling beside him, she spoke gently. "Hey there, are you okay? Where are your parents?" The boy looked up, his face pale and frightened. "I don't have anyone," he whispered. "I'm hungry." Without hesitation, Lily took his small hand in hers and led him back to the diner. Rain drenched them both, but she didn't care. Inside, she wrapped him in a warm blanket and set a steaming bowl of soup in front of him. The boy's face lit up as he ate, and for the first time that night, Lily felt a warmth inside her, despite the cold. What she didn't realize was that someone had been watching. Across the street, a sleek black car sat idling, its wipers swiping away the rain. Inside, James Dalton, a billionaire known for his sharp business mind and private demeanor, watched in silence. He had been driving through the area after a stressful day, hoping the quiet streets would clear his mind. But then, he saw her. At first, it was just curiosity. Why was a young woman out in the rain, kneeling beside a homeless child? But as he watched her lead the boy inside and care for him with such effortless kindness, he couldn't look away. She had no cameras on her, no audience to impress. She did it simply because it was the right thing to do. James exhaled slowly, gripping the steering wheel. Something about her struck a chord deep within him. Something he couldn't quite explain. "Who is she?" he murmured. To himself, his eyes fixed on the diner. For the first time in years, James felt something stir inside him. Not obligation, not strategy, just admiration. He pulled a notepad from the glove compartment and scribbled down the name of the diner before driving away. But the image of Lily Harper stayed with him long after he returned to his luxurious penthouse. The next few days were a blur. For Lily. Between juggling double shifts and caring for her younger brother, who relied on her to pay his school fees, she barely had time to think about the boy she had helped. But his smile lingered in her mind, giving her strength. Meanwhile, James found himself unable to stop thinking about the waitress. He had everything money could buy, yet he couldn't shake the image of her standing in the rain, offering warmth and kindness to someone who had nothing. It wasn't just her actions that captivated him. It was the purity of her heart, and he needed to know more about her. One evening, James made a decision. Dressed in a tailored suit that looked out of place in a diner, he walked through the doors of Rosie's. The bell jingled softly. Lily, balancing a tray of plates, glanced up. Her hair was slightly frizzy from the kitchens. Humidity, but her smile was as radiant as ever. James froze. She was even more familiar up close. "Welcome to Rosie's. Have a seat anywhere you like," she greeted him. Her voice warm despite the weariness in her eyes. James chose a corner booth, his gaze following her as she worked. She treated every customer with the same kindness he had witnessed that night. She helped an elderly man count his change. She offered a free coffee refill to a struggling mother. She paused to check on a regular who seemed unusually quiet. Every interaction confirmed what James already knew. This woman was extraordinary. When his meal was finished, James handed Lily the bill without saying much.